G'day and welcome to another episode of Ethan's Wildlife. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and we're actually going over the border into New South Wales. So it's going to be something a little bit different, and we're just going to be exploring the northern areas of New South Wales to see what we can find. Alright, so we've just crossed over into New South Wales. Once we set up camp, we'll be good to do some spotlighting, I reckon. So we're out for a spotlight. So let's see what we can find. I can already hear some common eastern froglets, so that would be a new species for me, which would be really cool. It's not that I haven't heard them around, but they're just small and obscure. And let's see what we can find. It's quite wet weather, so good for frogs. This is a common eastern froglet. Absolutely tiny amphibian, and that's the one that you can hear calling. I've wanted to find this species for a while, but because they're so small, they're quite hard to find. Wow, isn't it magnificent? This is an adult. I just can't get over how small it is. It could fit on the tip of my finger. Well, let's see what else we can find. So this little guy is a common brush-tailed possum. Probably one of the more commonly sighted mammals in Australia. They're named after their black brushy tail, which you can sort of see from this angle here. The underside of that tail is actually bare, and that's because the tail is prehensile and can be used as an aid for climbing. It can grip onto surfaces. They're quite an interesting creature, and they've actually adapted to living within human dwellings. And this here is what's known as a robust bleating tree frog. It used to be part of just one large species called the bleating tree frog, but recently it's been split up. And this is the one that you'll find in northeastern New South Wales. They look very similar to the desert or red tree frog, but you can tell them apart because it has a dark brown splotch on its back, which is a bit hard to see in this individual. So it's now morning in Arrawarra, New South Wales, just north of Coffs Harbour, and we're going to go down to the beach now, see if we can find some cool stuff at the beach, eh? Had a pretty good night last night. Let's see what we can find. This guy is a little wattlebird. They're a type of honey eater. They really like the heathland here. That's the guy that's making that noise. They're flying around. They're mostly feeding on the nectar of these banksia trees here, like this one. And you see those big yellow cone-shaped flowers, like that one there. They eat the nectar out of that. They're actually a large honey eater. There's a couple of different species. This is called the little wattlebird. They're quite common, but they can be hard to film. So here we are at the beach, and now there's not that many animals that you're going to find here. You might find a couple of things washed up, but what we're going to mostly do is we're going to head over there, not to the headlands because I don't want to get wiped out by a wave, but to the rocky areas just near it. We'll find a lot more animals there. Also look for a lot of things along the way, especially along here, the border between the ocean and the heath. Should find more that way as well. It's a beautiful ocean. Even some surfers out. This is a pied oyster catcher. There's several different species of oyster catcher. This one's called the pied because of his black and white colour. This guy's actually quite common in Queensland, but he's listed as an endangered species in New South Wales. They have very distinctive bill, so they used to dig around in the sand. Well, they have the name oyster catcher. They don't just eat oysters, they eat pretty much any marine invertebrate that they can encounter with their beak by poking around in the sand. He actually did that earlier. As you can see. So this is a resident bird. You do get a lot of migratory shorebirds. This one does not migrate. It lives here year round. So beautiful. They've been wading around in the water. Beautiful bird. Oystercatcher's caught something. It's like a little bivalve. It's sort of like a clam-like mollusk. He's opened it, eaten the flesh, left it behind, and he's off for more. It's definitely a bivalve. Maybe like a pippy or something. Shorebirds all have very unique shaped beaks, which they use for catching food in the mud and the sand. They're a group of animals I find spectacular. And here we have the Brahminy kite. This is a raptor, a bird of prey. And they're quite common in coastal areas throughout the Indo-Pacific region. They're a kleptoparasite, which means they steal food from other animals. And they eat mostly fish. Very distinctly coloured as an adult. Almost looks similar to the American bald eagle. It's much smaller. It's honestly a beautiful bird. And this is more what I was talking about. This sort of rocky area here will be perfect for a whole bunch of animals. And that's what we're going to go and find. Let's go do it. White-faced herons. 1, 2. We more typically associate these guys with inland freshwater areas, but you can find them on the coast too. Now they have a very distinctive long snake-like neck and sharp bill, and they actually use that to skewer their prey. Pick it up, or just pick it up even. They'll eat just about anything: frogs, insects, fish, mollusks, insects. They're an amazing little bird, aren't they? Right, let's try not to disturb them too much as we walk. So these guys are great crested terns. You can tell that by their crest-like cap and their sharp yellow bills. Very closely related to seagulls, but they're a bit larger than the silver gull, and they have a bit more of a slender wing shape. They're a colonial species, so they form colonies, and when they're not out on the wing, they'll be resting on rocks like this. These guys can be found right across much of the world, so you can even get them in Africa and Asia. They're native to Australia, but they're just a very widespread species. Aren't they spectacular? This is the other oystercatcher species you'll find out here in northern New South Wales. This is a sooty oystercatcher. They're a bit more common in New South Wales than the pieds, and they look very similar, but they don't have that white belly. As you can see here, it's all black except for its red bill, legs and eye ring. These are zebra-top snails. And they called that for an obvious reason. I mean, look at their pattern. They're a type of marine snail species. Very common in rock pools around these parts. And this fish, which is just all over these rock pools, is a black spot sturgeon. It's a really cool looking fish. This one's an interesting find. It's a ghost crab. I'm not sure which species it is. They can be very hard to identify down to species level. Still a really cool find though. And that now draws an end to this episode of Ethan's Wildlife. I hope you enjoyed it. Part 2 will come out very shortly, probably tomorrow. And we'll be exploring a bit more of northern New South Wales. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.